All right. Well, in Japan, we don't say Happy New Year. We just say that the light has opened, or light has, yeah, light has like come on. That's kind of what we say in the New Year's. So that's what I'm going to say. The door for the light has opened. So welcome to year 2021. And today is January 11th. What a powerful number day today. And welcome to Monday with Masami, and parenthesis Chris. Chris is somewhere here. So, and I wasn't sure where to get started today because there's so much to talk about. But first, I think it might be helpful for all of us to just kind of get in touch with our breath. So why don't we do that? Because without the breath, we don't exist. So let's just get sitting in a comfortable, but your spine lifted kind of a position. Good. And then allow the earth to support you. If you want to close your eyes, feel free to do so. Always know that you're being supported by this earth. And then imagine that you have this little tug at the top of your head that lifts you up a little bit. And you know, when I say where the tug is, if you want to open your eyes and take a look at me, that's fine. But you use your heel of your hand and put it right where your hairline goes to your neck. So for me, kind of like right in that spot. And then if you touch right where the middle finger touches, that's where you want to lift up towards the heaven. Okay. That's a special spot. One of these days, I'll teach you what that spot is about. Okay. But use your heel of your hand, place it to where your hairline ends and where the neck begins. So, occiput area. Okay. And, you know, just to where the skull kind of comes in and the neck comes out, right? Right there, you rest your heel on it and put your middle finger right there. Imagine that's where the string towards the heaven is. Okay. So allow that to get lifted. Then you'll naturally pull the chin down also. And then let's breathe through the nostrils. Just get to know your rhythm. Maybe you rushed to get on it, or you just had a phone call that was maybe stirred you up. Maybe you had a lot to do today already. So allow the rhythm to come back to natural, calming rhythm for you. And see if you could allow your exhales to become slightly longer than your inhales. Just a tiny bit longer. And then as you breathe, see if you could breathe out of your feet. Breathing out of your feet. Like as if you're pulling the heaven down through your spine and out through, letting the heaven and the earth mingle, marble together. They would love to be together once in a while, but generally they're separated. So just you become the conduit of these two forces. Breathing out of your feet, pulling down the heaven, down your spine, down through your legs, out through your feet. And if you've been feeling a little bit out of touch with your own body, with so much that is going on in this world, then place your hands so palms facing down towards your thighs. and press into your thighs for a moment. And maybe you need to press your thighs up towards your hands too, just to let your body know, I'm here. I'm here. And if you feel unsettled, your body is not quite in alignment with where you're at right now, like you had to leave your body for a while because things been really crazy and rough, then just really get in touch with your legs for a moment and keep the palms facing down, not up, but down. That helps you to ground yourself better than the meditations that have you facing the palms up. And let's do 3 more slow breaths on your own. And at each breath, release the tension down through the feet. Ask the Mother Earth to process that for you and together with you. Good. And then slowly opening your eyes, letting the light come inside. Well, welcome everyone. And I don't see, do you see Chris? Oh, there he is. I think somebody's needing to be muted. Chris, do you hear the breath? Okay, thank you. So, I was thinking about what to share today. There's been so much going on. But if you have not read the essay that I wrote for the Shift Network called The Power of Not Knowing, I'm going to have Chris put the link up on the chat. And I think that might be a good start because I was sitting with the power of not knowing a little bit more too. And it's something that it took me almost like 8 days or so to write it. I first got the inspiration from that haiku that my storehouse burnt down. Now I can see the moon. That's the haiku. My storehouse burnt down. Now I can see the moon. And I really had to sit with it because my desire was to be hopeful at the end of last year and say, hey, we can all start to see the moon. We can lift our heads up and see the moon. But something inside me, the deep wisdom was saying, not so fast. You need to learn to be in the place of not knowing if you can lift your head up to see the moon. It's not the moon is the issue, right? It's not that the moon isn't going to show up. The moon is always there, just like the sun is always there for us. It's our abilities to be able to see past the wreckage, see past the ashes, the debris, and still choose to see the moon. That's kind of where we're at. But at the same time, I don't want to rush this process because I think we're in the bridge year. The bridge year might last a little bit longer, but certainly this year is bridging between the old narratives, old patterns, old way of governing, old way of existing, to we're bridging towards something that is remarkably beautiful that is coming our way. But I am not going to predict what that is going to look like. I kind of have a sense of what that feels like though. So there's a lot of sensations I feel around the dawn of new and dawn of new era. But that's as far as I want to go with it. Because I think if we rush to try to say, okay, that was that, I'm done with that, I'm going to the new. So leave me alone. And, I just want to have a clear beginning, black and white. then I think we miss out on this beautiful time of the liminal space and the beautiful time of not knowing, and to tap into our innate power within us to cultivate vitality, cultivate stamina, grit, and our abilities to really strengthen who we are. That's where we're at right now. That's the time that we're given right now. So I don't want to squander that. I don't want to rush through that. Kind of a building. I want to slowly build on it. I want to get stronger at it. And what reminds me of this bridge year that we're in, and I'm going to just keep calling it the bridge year, really, is when I got pulled out of the Japanese society and I got shipped out to the US when I was 16. And, it was a tremendous difficulties. I mean, I didn't speak a word of English. So it was really, really hard for me to be pulled out, and a teenager too, yuck, right? So then I come in here. But what that taught me was to navigate the not knowing forcefully. I had to learn it. But I think that set the stage for me to be a little bit more comfortable in a way in the discomfort of not knowing. And I think that's where you want to tap into this year, is to be comfortable in the not knowing exactly how this is going to unfold. And if you could get that strength, I think you will be able to really start to feel the dawn of new era that is actually here and it's coming. There's so much vibrational shifts and light that is shining. It's just not a particular, like a vision I have. It just, there's a sensations I feel. And I think a lot of us light workers, we're all light workers, right? That are looking for something. Can I get lighter? Can I just kind of shift into it? But today I did a small group session for the ones that I pulled the numbers from my course. And I really emphasize this idea that because we're light workers and because the light is coming, tremendous light is coming into our world, into our bodies, that it's more important than ever that you're grounded, so that the meditation / breathing that I did in the beginning would be very helpful for all of you. And if you could do that, maybe 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, or combine it and do 10 to 20 minutes. And I would recommend that you keep your palms facing down for a while, because that actually gets you to breathe a little bit more towards the dantian. So it's more towards your belly and more towards the first and second chakra. So it'll be easier for you to get grounded and pull the light through you. So there's this, like, what you call it, like our desires as light workers is to want to go towards the light. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I don't want to call us the, what's that, moss? Is it no, moths? It's TH. I always forget, is it a moss or moth? So TH, moths. They go towards the light, right? They want to go flying towards the light. That's what we want to do, but I'm asking you, hold back, be the butterfly, not the moths. Okay. And I mean, moths are amazing too. I'm kind of learning some cool things about them, but don't fly towards the light. Let the light, you channel it through you, pull the light in instead of fly towards the light. I hope that makes sense. Like, pull it in, pull it in. And that meditation, the breathing practice, putting the breath down towards the earth, will keep you a lot more grounded, and at the same time to experience that light that is here already. And it's intensifying. It really is. Okay. And I wanted to today kind of share this concept that it's a really cool concept that was used in the late 80s and early 90s, when the the Cold War was ending, Berlin Wall was coming down, Tiananmen Square was happening, and the Eastern Europe was no longer East, West, but it was just like people are starting to come together. And during that time, there's so much uncertainties too. It's like it used to be like that's our enemy, right? That's our enemy, and there was a clear black and white. And around that time, things started to really shift. Okay. And this is around the time that this concept, which was reminded to me by one of the emails that I received from Japan. And this lady was talking about it. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is great for the uncertainties that I'm talking about. And it's called VUCA, VUCA world. Okay. And Chris can write that down, but it's V as in Victor, UCA, VUCA. So VUCA world. And the V stands for volatility, okay? And U stands for uncertainty. And C stands for complexity. And then A stands for ambiguity. So it's a VUCA world. And I thought, this is kind of cool because the era of the wind is what, we're calling it in Japan. It's the age of Aquarius, right? Because it has the element of the wind or the ether, right? The movement. During that time, we're starting to experience this VUCA world, probably been experiencing it for decades, but we're really feeling it now. The volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, and ambiguity. And so how do we hold ourselves in that VUCA world, right? That is blowing at us. And it's going to get a little bit intense, I suspect. And because the wind isn't something that only occurs once in a while, right? There's a breezy days to windy days to their stormy days to their swirling winds to tornadoes to typhoons to hurricanes. There are many kinds of winds. So I think we really want to learn to how to dance with the variations of the winds. And I'm going to spend this month in January talking about this VUCA world a little bit more in depth. Okay. And the first is the volatility. I wanted to go through that. And it means that you're experiencing constant changes, and the changes are getting faster and faster. And I'm sure you're starting to feel that, right? We hit the ground running as soon as January hit. And there'll be a lot of dramatic and shocking things that will be happening and has already happened, and it's happening. And there are unexpected things, but I say perhaps not so unexpected in terms of what went on in the United States at the Capitol. To me, yes, it was shocking. And then at the same time, I thought, why am I so shocked by this? Because I asked myself that. It's like, why am I so shocked? And when the initial shock subsided, I felt, well, this is something that I was seeing. The shifts were happening. I just didn't want to face it. How it unfolded was shocking, but that energy behind that attack was not so shocking. I think all of us could probably relate to what I'm saying. And I started to think about what are the volatility that we're going to experience. And I started thinking, wow, there are going to be some vertical changes. There are going to be horizontal changes. What else did I write? So like vertical changes will be like leadership changes. And then it's the masculine, feminine changes, employer versus employees, competition versus cooperation. This is one of my themes this year, is that I want to create more of a cooperative, like a cooperating with each other, complementing each other, working together, instead of like, I got the best tool and you don't kind of thing. Instead of that, it's like, can we kind of support one another together? Can we have a more of a voice that could elevate all of us together? So I'm looking for more of a less of a competition kind of an energy. And I'm working more and more with people that feel the same way. And the vertical changes are those things. And then the horizontal changes And I'm going to have Chris chime in about this because he was reading an article about this last night about horizontal changes within our family systems and so family relationships and sibling relationships, parents in your relationships. I would even think the horizontal changes might include the ancestral relationships as well as past life relationships. And I'll give you an example. So today, when I did the small group, one of the ladies asked me about the past lives, and she wanted to clear the past life, but her body kept saying it's not about clearing the past life. So we dug a little deeper. We went a little deeper into what is it that she wanted to do and what I was hearing from her body. Her body first, asked me to do different things, just kind of get her body more balanced and grounded. But the next thing, when we're able to get to the past life issue, I said to her, I said, this is the life that was right before this one. So it's very close to related to what's happening now. But what ended up happening was instead of clearing that past life, what her past life characters or, the past life messengers said to me was that, no, we want to actually have a more of a cooperation. We want to in the now. So could you tell her to not erase us or clear us, but can we have a little bit of an understanding with each other? So that's where we went. So, that's just the one example of what the horizontal relationship may start to change. And many of you know that I'm not a huge fan of this masculine approach towards spirituality or nutrition or health of let's clear things, let's remove things, let's do detox, let's continue to eliminate, remove and strip. Like, I don't think that is all going to help us. I think it's going to be a balance. Okay, so that's one of the things I wanted to mention. And then a global community versus local community as well, because we're so connected through Zoom and the media. So that horizontal side. And then there's an internal changes so I talked about the vertical changes, horizontal changes, internal changes. So not just the top down approach to your body, but the bottom up approach, which is kind of what I love sharing, is the listening into what the inner body is saying to us instead of always following work that is, visualization or meditations that are always top down, like being always guided from the outside teachings versus inner teachings. Because the vagus nerve, as many of you know, communicate because there are multiple branches of them, okay? But the vagus nerve communicates from the gut back to the brain 80% of the time. So 80% of your information comes from the gut up. That's a bottom up approach. So I think the internal relationship you're going to have with yourself is going to be more of a balance between the bottom up, body up versus always outside working with the methods or working with this kind of a meditation or working with this kind of channeling or working with this kind of a guided meditation versus what is my inner voice wanting to say to me. Okay, so that'll be the internal change. And then the spiral change, it's not a circular anymore. And Chris and I have been talking about the spiral changes for I don't know how long, Chris, maybe about a decade now or longer, but we see our lives as this spiraling that's going up like this. And then so when you get to a certain point, you look down and it feels very familiar to you, but it's at the different dimension. And so if you could look at the life and life lessons from a more of a spiral point of view instead of, oh, I'm back to this thing again, oh my God, I must not have learned this lesson and I just have to do it again. It's like, instead of getting bogged down in that kind of thinking, to say, wait a minute, yes, these are similar themes. I guess I need to learn this theme but can I look at it from just a little bit of different standpoint and be intrigued by it, be a little bit more curious around it, instead of saying, what is this about again? Instead of that, it's like, isn't that interesting? How is this showing up again this time? But how is this showing up in a little bit of a different flavor? Okay. So if you could do a little bit of the spiraling instead, I think would be very helpful during this bridge year. And then, so let's say, be shown your lessons and grow from it is what I wrote. And ascending movements that are spiraling. Okay. And then, so don't mistake, don't make a mistake of thinking that, oh my God, I'm going downwards, or I'm making the same mistakes again, I'm just circling the same ground again. No, that's not true. There's an ascension going on, there's ascending going on. Okay. And then I was thinking about, under this volatility, this is what we're going to cover today, but the volatility is no more simple linear thinking. So it's 2 + 2 isn't going to equal 4 anymore. Okay. It's going to be a completely different number, maybe a totally different language, totally different ways of looking at 2 + 2. Okay. Because that's just too linear. And then not everything is determined by the cause and effect. And you might want to start to look at correlations, relationships, associations, or connection, but it's not A leading to B equaling C. So your health questions will have to evolve. So it's not like, don't ask me to say, hey, why is this happening? Can you tell me the reason? But you might want to say, this and this are happening around the same time. Or when I feel this, I also feel X, Y, and Z. So are there any correlations between these two things or three things? That's kind of how I want you to start looking. Okay. And then, I was talking to one of my really good friends in Chicago, and she's a beautiful channeler, and she's really pretty amazing at the level that she can connect. And so I've been helping her to ground her a little bit. But we were talking, and I said to her, I said, I really couldn't put myself to predicting the 2021, because something inside me early on in December said, do not predict. Do not assume that you can visualize what this is in your brain. So don't do it. So I didn't. And I told her that. I said, I just couldn't do that. And I wasn't allowed to do that. My wisdom said, no way. And she said, yeah, that makes complete sense, because we're not in the linear time anymore. Well, yeah, we kind of all know that, right? But I think I was really shown that in December, that we're not in that. So don't even pretend. So I didn't. So that's why you didn't hear me talk about it. Okay. And also, let's see, outside. Yeah. So she was saying that we're in outside of the time frame and cannot predict. So we were just having a really good conversations around that. But at the same time, how do we ground ourselves in the timelessness, right? Because we're still living this physical body. So like that breathing exercise, and I'll try to do that every week this month, so that you can be a little more grounded. Okay. Grounded and pulling the light in and be in the timelessness. So can we all do all those things? It's like a juggling and brushing your teeth and tapping your head at the same time. It's kind of like that. All right. And then before I go to Chris, it's not, I put, it's not, it's a Japanese word that I wrote down. The Japanese word is called atarimae, and it means like a matter of fact, or tradition, or old patterns, or this is how we used to do it. And then this is what we've always done. This is who I am. I've always been this way. You know me, how I react. You know me, like filling the blank, you know me, or how we've always done it this way. That language, that idea, and that's the rigidity of our minds, because our ego is like, oh my God, I can't handle this new stuff moving through. So when you use those languages, you know that it's your ego trying to stay put and holding on. Okay. So those are some of the things I wanted to say about the first V, so VUCA, volatility. And then we'll go through the uncertainty and complexity and ambiguity throughout this month, and then, go through the VUCA world together. All right. So I will pause for a moment.
So my head is popping with so many connections as you're talking here. So I'll share a few of them. And one of them, I don't know, I think for me right now, as we talk about volatility in particular, one of the things that really strikes me is a question that I was encouraged to ask by one of my really key teachers. And he said, the way that he would put it, it's not that he was asking me, but he uses this and I've picked up on it. It's just the question, what wants to happen? And when we're in the midst of volatility and we can pause and look at what's happening and just ask ourselves, what wants to happen? There's a lot of freedom in that question, because it opens us up beyond our habitual way of thinking. And this is where Masami is pointing with these comments that she just made. So that would be the first thing that I would want to encourage everyone to start practicing, is just to ask that question when you're confused or you find yourself back to one of those arms of the spiral that Masami described, where you feel like, oh, here I am again, familiar pattern, familiar ground. Maybe I'm making the same mistakes, but you might not be. And it's important to ask yourself to check in on that and see if that's the case. And that's one way that you can find it, is by asking yourself in that situation, okay, here I am, what wants to happen? Another thing that is really hitting me in this is just the fact that we all have choices to make now about what our lives are going to become as we move forward. This may sound a little bit obvious or even strange. It could be either one. And it may sound obvious if you are somebody who looks at life that way, that things are in constant motion. But if you're somebody who feels like things are stuck or fixed, then it might seem like a strange concept that you actually have choices to make right now about what you are going to be moving forward. How are you going to look at situations as they unfold in this volatile moment? And it reminded me also of this expression. Well, it's an expression, it's a line from James Joyce. I think it was from his novel Ulysses. But he used this line. One of the characters says, "Welcome to the chaosmos." The chaosmos, which is a combination of chaos and cosmos. And he uses that expression because those are balancing forces. And that's, so many things in nature, the universe, physics, operate on balancing principles. In our bodies, we have homeostasis. When we talk about the mind, we often talk about equanimity. And so these reflect this idea of chaosmos, where chaos is the raw energy, the potential, the creative forces that haven't been organized and aligned towards something yet. And so we often think about them in terms of destruction, and they can be really stressful and fear-inducing for us. Whereas the cosmos side is more or less the energy of organization, and it's the opposite in many respects, alignment, and putting things into systems. And so we see a lot of that in the world around us, the cosmos side of that formula. But James Joyce's point was, we live in this. Our reality is we're always in chaos and we're always in cosmos. And so understanding that can help us see that volatility is actually completely natural and normal. It's not something that needs any kind of special fear or upset or anything like that. And if you can bear with me, I have a couple more things that came to mind from Masami's comments. one of them was this idea of the our linear thinking has to be tested. And I just read something about this very recently about there's a story of Sir Thomas More, and this is back, I believe it would have been in the 1600s, but there's an expression in English, mainly from British English, but the expression is that Tenterden steeple was the cause of the Goodwin Sands. And it's a strange phrase. Tenterden steeple was the cause of the Goodwin Sands. And so just a little story, okay? There's this village or town in England, in the Kent region, that's called Tenterden. And they had a church, hence the steeple. But they had this problem, which was over time, the movement of the river and the currents of the ocean were piling up a sandbank around their seaside areas that was impacting their fishing. It was impacting their ability to run ships through there. And so Sir Thomas More was sent out to investigate what was happening because they were complaining about this buildup of sand. And he came back, and the story goes that his report said that Tenterden steeple, so the steeple of the church in the town, was the cause of the sandbanks, the Goodwin Sands. And people thought it was the most insane, absurd thing that they had ever heard of. And so if you stop there, it seems, and this phrase is actually used to point to things that are, a non sequitur, to things that are not related to each other. But in fact, if you look into the situation further, what happened is Thomas More pointed out that the bishop of that region had actually been given a donation of some very large funds in order to build a new dike to redirect the water and not have the sand build up. And what he ended up doing was spending the money on a steeple for the church. So they didn't build the dike. So the sands came in and they piled up and they created this problem. So this is an exercise in getting past simple linear thinking. And so even though we use that phrase to represent two things that aren't related, in fact, in this actual situation the phrase is from, they were very related, just in an indirect way. So that's one of the tests of our thinking right now. Like Masami said it really nicely. We need to refine our questions. We need to look at more than just what appear to be linear relationships. So I thought that was a really important point. And I could say more, but I'll pause there and let Masami come back on.
Well, that was fun. Chris and I did not talk about this topic at all. I was going to talk about it and I made a copy and I just gave it to him. So I said, you got plenty in your head you can share. So thanks for sharing. And, I think what I wanted to mention about the volatility thing too, and in this VUCA world, is that the VUCA world doesn't exist outside of you only, right? What's inside is what's outside, right? We're constantly mirroring each other. So even, I'm going to give you another example of this person that's been having a lot of liver and gallbladder congestions. And then so the congested feelings are showing up all over her life, right? With the relationship she's in, the financial lack of flow, and just sticky and cruddy. And the friends are even, I was calling her that maybe you need to get rid of your rancid friends because, fats get rancid. So I said, maybe some of your friends are getting a little rancid. So, things like that. Like we just have to come back in and notice what's happening inside. And, last year's theme, as many of you know, when I first started in January, I said, it's to hold the paradox, right? Hold seemingly opposing things and seemingly unrelated things. Hold those two together. And I think that's going to be continuously important for this year and more. And then we'll talk more about other themes, because I would love for all of you to come up with a theme for this year, this month. Don't rush into it. I know I said, it's good to come up with a theme in end of December. but I think it's okay to continue to kind of play around with what are the maybe a couple themes. But I like to stay with one or two themes for this year that you want to see unfold. And one of the things that you want to really do before you come up with your theme or themes is to look at your inner paradox. What are some of the areas inside you that you are very linear in your thinking? That you are stuck in 2 plus 2 must equal 4. And some of the ways that you say, well, this is who I am, kind of a thing. Fill the blank. I am this. Okay. So the I am statement is a very powerful statement, right? And it's used in the Bible as well. But, be still and know that I am, right? So I am statement is very, very powerful in its vibration. So you want to be careful what you fill in after I am. All right. So be cautious of that. Pay attention this month. Get that into your practice. And I think that's going to be very helpful. And I just want to give you maybe, oh yeah. So I said, so what can we do? What can we get going on to work on this VUCA world that we're in, and the VUCA world that you might be feeling inside is for you to, this sounds so simple, but, Ram Dass said it right, be here now, be here now. And Eckhart Tolle, wrote that, best-selling book, Power of Now, right? So it's really, can you just be in this moment, like 30 seconds at a time? And the friend that I was speaking to this over the weekend, she said, she's like, I think it's more like 10 seconds at a time. And I think so. In the volatile world that we live in, if you could just stay in you for 10 seconds. And actually, I'm going to have Chris measure 10 seconds for us. So why don't we all just come back to your breath, okay? Sit with your spine lifted where I showed you where the back of the head gets lifted towards the heaven, okay? And then, Chris, when you're ready, go ahead and start the 10 seconds and then let us know. But to tell us when you're starting, okay?
Okay.
And then we'll just stay in this moment only for 10 seconds. Okay.
And start. That's time.
Okay. Can we do 30 seconds? Because that felt really good. Yeah. So let's do 30 seconds. Okay. And that's where we'll stay. That's long enough for me. Okay.
30 seconds is a big jump. Okay, here we go. Ready, start. And stop.
Oh my God, that was tough.
Can I just say, I want to just.
That was really tough. Hold on. Yeah, that was tough for me. Yeah.
I just wanted to challenge everyone to pay attention to what you did in those 30 seconds, because I'm guessing some of you might have done something like start by holding your breath almost, not even deliberately, but just because it's a task and you're asked to do something. What happened? Did you pay attention to how, I'm going to tell you what happened for me, which is from 10 seconds to 30 seconds, my sense of time just exploded. I could completely feel this I don't know, this expansion of time from 10 to 30 seconds. I mean, it almost felt vast to me. And that may not have been your experience, but I want you to just pay attention to what happened. How did you use those 30 seconds?
Well, I'll tell you mine. After about 15 seconds, I'm assuming, and Lydia is like, oh my God, I lasted 23 seconds. I think you might have gone a little further than I did. But about 15 seconds, what I was doing was scrambling to find tools. So I was like, I'm like, oh my God, my palms are facing up. I have to have my palms facing down. I was pushing on my legs and I'm like, should I close my eyes? Should I not? Oh, if I close my eyes, I'll be meditating. So should I not do that? Like it was ridiculous.
So
What
this is
on?
a great example of being and doing, and just how much we have trained ourselves, and we've been trained by society and education to be doers and just to fill time. And so I like what Moira said. She said, time stood still.
Mm,
That's an amazing experience
yeah.
if you can have that happen. And I'm seeing can I read a couple comments here?
Yes, I love it.
Janice says that she felt the group energy about midway through. And Joanne says that felt expansive for me as well. One of the most powerful things I heard from either you or Chris was the statement that you can't take a breath in the future or in the past. You can only breathe a breath in the present moment. That was you that said that. That wasn't me. And Deborah says, at first I reminded myself to breathe, and then there was a sense of timelessness. So yeah, we almost have this, Rumi has this great line where he says to live life as if you're an eagle poised at the edge of a cliff ready for flight. So it's this feeling of readiness to dive into the vastness of this unknown world. And so, yeah, so and Ijung says, I heard a plane outside and a Star Wars battleship from my husband's TV show. I just listened to the sounds as I sat still. And that's a great way to practice mindfulness.
You want to read Richard's comment too?
I missed Richard. Richard says, during the 30 seconds, I took a couple of deeper breaths. I had my eyes closed. I remembered the image of the dog of the house, which I had just been let outside. She came to my step at my sliding glass door. Look how many things happen in the span of just a few seconds across our lives and just around the world as we're gathered here.
Oh, this is fabulous. Yeah. So I think it'll be good to do this month as we go through the VUCA world and then really start to increase the time to 30 seconds and more. And so I will work on it, but I think it makes it kind of hard when I'm holding the space and I'm trying to look at the time, and sometimes it is hard for me to come back to myself, but I promise I'll do it for myself too after this. So, and Lynn says, got a phone call during the 30 seconds. That's life, isn't it? Just said, nope, staying here with myself and others. Oh, that's great. And early on, there was a comment from Deborah that says, what you're sharing makes so much sense with my own conflicted, uncertain, ambiguous thoughts, feelings lately, and feeling off kilter and rather unmotivated this past week, because most of my time lately is online work and of the mind. Yeah. Sensing I need and require more connection with nature and moving the body to reconnect. Thank you for your insight, Masami. So, Deborah, if you have not read that essay I wrote, I think it will help you too. But what I'm trying to get the message across is that don't rush into looking up to see the moon, right? For those of you that maybe came in a little later, that the haiku is, basically my storehouse burnt down. Now I can see the moon. So don't force yourself to see the moon right away. Just allow the situations to settle, the dust to settle. Notice how you're reacting to all these things. And then absolutely go outside and sit by the tree. And I stayed in that place of silence and stillness for years after I got diagnosed with MS. And I couldn't walk. And I was in so much pain all the time. I allowed myself to be in nature. Chris knows this, but I ended up sitting by the garden, our flower garden, for hours on end, huh, Chris? Like I would just sit there. And then all of the sudden one day, this coyote came up. I think it was a female coyote that came up this hill that we live on and then sat right in front of me. And we just sat together for months, and we were both injured. We both couldn't walk really well. She was injured. She must have been attacked by the other coyotes. And so she was limping, like I was limping. And we would just sit across from each other. And then one day, this was about 4 months of this silent exchange that I had with her. One day she didn't come back. And I thought, I wonder, maybe she has passed. And then just like that, I started to be able to walk after she passed. And so that was a gift I received from her and the nature. So, if we don't quiet down and create stillness in this moment, we miss out on a lot of the gifts that we're being given. So hopefully you can do more of that. Okay. Anything else, Chris, you want to share before we wrap up today? Because
I may have a quote to share, but Samantha just put up. So Samantha, this is an interesting phenomenon that a lot of times things are misattributed to sources that they don't come from. So what you're quoting is actually the same haiku that Masami is referring to, and it is a haiku. It's not an African proverb. It's from a Japanese samurai from the 17th century. If you read her article, she gives his name there.
Yeah, Mizuta Masahide. Mizuta Masahide. He studied with one of the best haiku poet in Japan in 17th century. So it's actually a haiku. Yeah. I can even tell you the Japanese haiku if you need it.
So I have to. I work on the power of the oracle when we do these calls. Like I'll reach for a book or something. Sometimes it's a book I haven't even touched in decades, which is what happened today. I just looked at my bookshelf and this one called out to me. I wouldn't necessarily recommend reading this book, so I'm not bringing it up as a recommendation because it's a crazy book. I'll give you the name just for those of you that want to go now and find out what kind of crazy book I read when I was 22, but it's called Cosmic Trigger by Robert Anton Wilson. And again, I'm not recommending it, but he does say some really interesting things right at the very beginning.
Chris, before you do that, will you put the Breath Summit link out?
Let's make those comments now. I've got it ready to go.
Everyone, that the Breath Summit is going to start in 5 minutes. So if you haven't signed up, it's pre-recorded. That's why I can be here. So some of you are like, how could you be in 2 places at the same time? Because that's because I'm an alien. Okay. But and there's no time. Remember, everyone? So anyway, but it'll start in about 5 minutes. I haven't even listened to myself, so I have no idea what I'm going to look like or like what I sound like. But please go and sign up and listen to me talk about the Breath Summit and the importance of not Breath Summit, but the importance of the breath. And it starts around 4:00. So if you could go and click the link and sign up, then they will send you the link to go.
Lydia wanted to know if there's a replay that can be watched.
Oh, yeah. I think they will do a replay for like a next 24 hours or something like that. So Lydia, you don't have to stay up. I know you're in Europe, so it'll be too late for you. Okay. And then I think last thing is that everyone, if you want to do the private sessions with me, I've had the sale price for a long time, for several months, and I'm going to take that sale price off. So that's going to go off this Friday. So just to give you a heads up on that. Okay. Then I think we're done with the announcement. So Chris, you want to read that and then we'll wrap up?
Okay.
48 hours okay, good, for a replay. Yeah. Good. All right. Thank you.
All right. So this comment from Uncle Bob Wilson, as he was known by a lot of his readers, this struck me. This is a line or a passage that I read, like I said, when I was 22, and it was very impactful on me. And to some extent, it stayed with me. But I saw this book, and I wasn't really sure what was going to pop out when I opened it, but I had this page marked. So here's what he says. This relates back to what I said earlier about we all have choices to make. So here's what he says about that. Okay, so he has this idea of things called reality tunnels, which is our perception of the world around us. Okay, so he's going to use that term here. He says, since we all create our habitual reality tunnels, either consciously and intelligently, or unconsciously and mechanically, I prefer to create for each hour the happiest, funniest, and most romantic reality tunnel consistent with the signals my brain apprehends. I feel sorry for the people who persistently organize experience into sad, dreary, and hopeless reality tunnels and try to show them how to break that bad habit. But I don't feel any masochistic duty to share their misery. So I just thought that would be a nice way to kick off the new choices that we have to make. Should I read that again?
Just the last part, and then we got to wrap up, honey.
Okay. No, I love that too. He says, I think you can get the point. Yeah, he says, I feel sorry for the people who persistently organize experience into sad, dreary, and hopeless reality tunnels and try to show them how to break that bad habit. But I don't feel any masochistic duty to share their misery. So,
all right. With that,
Yeah.
made me laugh. Thank you so much, everyone. And then we will get through this, okay? And we will thrive together. That's why we have this community, okay? And we'll breathe together and we'll continue to work on being together, being in that moment together, just a moment at a time. So I look forward to doing another 30 seconds next Monday. All right. Till then, thank you so much. I love you.